In this video, I'll review factoring using a method called triple play. It's not often in math textbooks. It's passed on by students and sometimes teachers. All of these examples initially are trinomials, and we're trying to factor them. The factored form ends up being a binomial times a binomial. Notice the signs inside the brackets are different depending on the question. When we multiplied the last two terms in the binomials, we ended up with the last term in the trinomial. Now in this case, a negative times a negative is a positive. We chose negatives because the middle term was a negative. Positive times negative is a negative. Positive times positive is a positive. Now we chose positives because that middle term was a positive. And a negative times a positive is a negative. Much like a simple trinomial question, we do need to find numbers that multiply to something and combine to something else. Now in the first case, we need to find two numbers that multiply to give us 6 and combine to give a negative 7. Here, multiply to give negative 6, combine to give a plus 1. Multiply to give 8, combine to give plus 9. And multiply to give negative 10, combine to give minus 3. We have negative 6 comma negative 1. When multiplied together, those two numbers make 6. And when combined or added together, they make negative 7. Now can you think of these two numbers? Multiply to negative 6, combined to give 1. Here we have multiply to give 8, combined to give 9. I'm thinking 8, 1. And multiply to negative 10, combined to negative 3. I'm thinking 5, 2. Next step is to set up some brackets. These aren't the final brackets. Now from here on in, we use a procedure that's not really algebra. It's just a way to find the final binomial times a binomial. So please don't look at this method as a set of rules. It's just a way to find the factors. We look at the first term and only use the 2x in the brackets. Here we use 3x, 4x, and 2x, and we just, for no other reason, place them in the brackets. Notice we use the 2, the 3, the 4, and the 2 in the bottom. The next step is to place these magic numbers into the brackets. So each set is different, but you keep the sign of the numbers in the brackets. Next step is to look inside the brackets for a common factor. Common factor of 2 comes out, a 3, 4, and a 2. Cross off the 2's, the 3's, the 4's, and the 2's. This method is not related to decomposition, so don't get those two confused. Let's review. So we start with a trinomial. We need to multiply to give us 6. We need to find two magic numbers that multiply to give us 6 and combine to give a negative 7. Once you find them, set up brackets. Use the 2x in the numerator inside the brackets and the 2 in the denominator. Place those magical numbers in the brackets. Take out a common factor, and usually it's going to be the denominator. Divide out the common factor, and you're left with the binomial times a binomial. Start with a trinomial. We're looking for two numbers that multiply to negative 6, combine to give 1, set up brackets, place the 3x inside the brackets and divide by the coefficient 3 here, place the magic numbers into the brackets, take out a common factor of 3, cancel the 3 off, and you're left with the final factors. Start with a trinomial. Two numbers that multiply to give 8, combine to give 9. The magic numbers are 8, 1. Set up some brackets. Use the 4x in the numerator in each of the brackets. and the denominator just gets a 4. Take out a common factor of 4. You're left with x plus 2, 4x plus 1. Cross off the 4's, and you're left with the factors. Start with a trinomial, two numbers that multiply to give -10 and combine to give -3. The numbers are -5, 2. Set up brackets with a 2x placed in the numerator, divided by just the 2. Look for a common factor, take it out, cross it off. You're left with the binomial times the binomial. Let's look at some examples separately. Two numbers that multiply to give -21 and combine to give a 20. I'm thinking 21 and 1, where the 21 is the positive and the 1 is the negative. Set up some brackets. Use the 3x, divide by 3. Place those numbers in. Look for a common factor of 3. Cross off the 3, and you're left with the factors. Now the numbers are starting to get larger, so we need to find two numbers that multiply to give 78 and combine to give a -19. The numbers would be, and you can use your calculator, 13, 6, where they're both negative. Set up the brackets. Use the 13y and 13. Place those magic numbers in the brackets. Take out a common factor of 13. Cross off the 13, and you're left with the factors. Oh no, I don't want to do this one because it's such a high number. So multiply to a -154 and combine to give a -15. All right, now just try a bunch in your calculator. We have a 7 and a 22. Set up our brackets. Insert the numbers you found. Look for a common factor. Now in this case, we don't have a common factor of 14 here, but we'll have to take out a common factor in both sets of brackets. So we're left with 2a plus 1, and take out a 2, 7a minus 11, divided by a 14, and cross off the 7, 2 to make that 14. And you're left with 2a plus 1 and 7a minus 11, the two factors. And we have another high number, 6 times 21, 7, 18, and they're both plus. Use the 6 said divided by 6. Insert your numbers. Look for a common factor. In the first one, we don't have one. And the second one, we have a 6. Cross off the 6's, and you're left with 6 said plus 7 and said plus 3. Now I just want to stress triple play is not a typical algebraic method that mathematicians use. However, it is useful. If you like the method, use it. Bottom line is we need to know how to factor. Just don't confuse the method with our traditional algebraic rules.